My bad. What's going on, y'all? What's going on, TOWBD community? The occult world of Brother Devin community. Um, Make sure that uh, if you have any questions, comments, concern, or new lecture ideas, you can email me at Brother Devin Occult Lectures at gmail.com. Okay, again, that's Brother Devin Occult Lectures at gmail.com. BROTHADEVONOCCULTLECTURES at uh at mention symbol g gmail.com. All right, Brother Devin Occult Lectures at gmail.com. Now, before I share this article with you guys, um, let's let's get into the circle of knowledge. So, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go into my paper. Here it is. All right. Sorry about that. Next lecture, I'll have my circle of knowledge paper in order. All right. Okay. So everybody follow after me. Everybody watching this video, repeat after me. The space inside this circle represents my realm of knowledge. All that I think I know about whatever I think I know is depicted within this circle. I must keep in mind that there is more to know than what is within the circumference of my awareness. All right? So basically basically what this excuse me, basically what this means here is uh I'm 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 going to tell you something that may or I'm going to tell you something that that may or might not offend you, depending on your circumference of awareness on the knowledge that you know, or the knowledge that I, as the teacher, am going to present to you. All right. Let's go to the next slide just real quick. And and basically, I just told you what this means, but since I chose to do this slide, I'm gonna read it to you one more time, and it goes a little something like this. This means that my job as a teacher is to remind you of the things that you may already know and teach you the knowledge that you don't know. And if you feel that I am wrong, don't take what I'm saying as the truth. Research it for yourself before believing it and accepting. Remember to respect your own intellectual dignity. That mean that that means keep your beliefs, and any new information that challenges your old beliefs, if it makes you emotionally uncomfortable and makes you cringe, Don't 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 throw it in the trash. Put it aside on your shelf, or your phone, or your computer for later. All right, y'all. Okay. Because my 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 job is not to convince you of anything. You have the right to your own intellectual dignity, just as anyone else does. Can nobody convince you to believe anything outside of your circumference of knowledge? All right. Let me continue reading. Okay. So we said, remember to respect your own intellectual dignity, and that whatever information that I share with you, to please write it down, so that if you perceive that the information that you have learned before is deemed to you as invalid or incorrect, you have new information to take into perspective. And remember, only a fool rejects what they do not know. How can you challenge something you don't know? All right? Here's the next part. Those of us who are IE teachers, metaphysicians, occult science teachers, all right? Because that's what I'm both a student and teacher of: metaphysics and occult science. Alchemy is a part of it. That's why I don't say the name alchemy that much. Those of us who are IE teachers are responsible for cultivating understanding. Yeah, for cultivating understanding of others. And and we and we those of us who are responsible for cultivating understanding of others are obligated to collect all available information on a given subject, and to organize that information into a system of thought that is practical and, uh, and applicable. Meaning, meaning, um, when when I give you information, I'm gonna give you information that's gonna help you, uh that's gonna help you apply the teachings to your own life. Because I'm not in the business of saving souls anymore. All right, I'm no longer a Christian. I broke away from that, from that religious system when I was 21. So I've been woke for going on, I want to say about 14 years now. No, I'm sorry. No, I want to say 12 years. Yeah, I've been woke for 12 years. Okay, and I I only debate my equals. So, if if you're not, if you're not a part of the subconscious community, you're not gonna receive a debate from me at all. But then again, really, I don't be wanting to do debates at all. Because like one of my occult science teachers taught me. he said that debating spirituality is like debating your own reality. So if I spend like 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 example, if I if I argue with my black friend Buster on whose movie theater is better, and I've been telling him for years that his movie theater is the best. It got the best snacks, the cleanest the cleanest bathrooms, the services is good. You know what I mean? Why 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 would I go over to my other friend David and argue with him and 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 tell him that that Buster's movie theater is trash behind Buster's back? If that's the case, I might as well not. I might as well not spend my money on Buster's movie theater. You know what I'm saying? Well, what would be the purpose in that? Okay, so this continues to say, if we are to meet the needs of those who are wearing the concrete issues of, oh, I'm sorry. Let me start this from the top. Those of us who are IE teachers, that means occult science teachers, metaphysical teachers. We are responsible for cultivating an understanding of others, and we are obligated to collect all available information on a given subject, and to organize that information into a system of thought that is practical and applicable. If we are to meet the needs of those who are wearing the concrete issues of religious and doctrinal thought. Okay? So as most of you may or may not know, which most of you probably don't, I have a background in Christianity. I I used to be a devout Christian. I knew all the scriptures and stuff. And when I got my awakening out of Christianity, I realized that there were certain things in the Bible that just didn't make sense. So and plus, when it came down to my celestial reality, or my solar reality, my soul reality, there was just things about the Christian Bible that made sense. Now, hear me now. When I say when I say that the Christian Bible made sense, what I'm saying is it made sense enough. It made sense enough for me to say this ain't the religion that I want to be a part of anymore. I need to know who the higher power is for myself. And once I started learning, studying, and understanding metaphysics, I realized. Oh yeah, shout out to KRS-One for that, by the way, too. Once I started learning and understanding metaphysics, I realized I realized that I too am a god, a co-creator of the earth, a co-creator for the spirit realm, and a co-creator of the supreme being collective. Okay, I I I believe, and I both feel and know that I am one of the creators. So when I call a female and male god or goddess, that that's not just a 5% nation, 10% nation thing that we say. Most people who are metaphysical and occult, we actually feel and believe that we are the gods. But those who really put in that work and make sacrifices to truly become immortal and practice that way of life, we also know what it means to sacrifice, right? All right, next slide. This this next slide also goes on to say, I would also like to add that my job as a metaphysical and occult science teacher and occult practitioner, that means that, that means I I don't just teach you about the hidden dark realms of your mind and the light side of your mind. I also I also practice magic and do spells. All right. I'm in the very near future. I'm gonna be teaching classes on how to be superhuman. All right. And also, I want to ask my subscribers who still believe in prayer to not just send love and light energy to me, but but also send um also send um also send love and infinite darkness to me. Now remember, when you send your dark energy, let that dark energy be an energy of protection to to shield me of my enemies and those that try to shut down my energy. All right. Remember, when you send your dark energy to me, make it manifest it into an energy of protection. All right. Okay. So when you send dark energy my way, make it positive dark energy. Okay. No one wants to be sucked and drained into negative energy. All right. Let me continue to read this. All right. I would also like to add that my job as a metaphysical and and occult science teacher and occult practitioner is to teach you and make you aware of, also to apply your super intellectual awareness, which is nothing more than your cosmological and super cosmological thoughts, ideas, neurological images via your controlled and concentrated thoughts, ideas, and images being put into action, simply referred to as your imagination in action. So, so, which so that's also referred to as your occult mind. Okay, your hidden dark mind is also occult mind, and your occult mind is your subconscious and subconscious thoughts and thinking being put into action. All right. Excuse me. In other words, metaphysics is to teach you to go beyond your human understanding and into the understanding of your spiritual mind and your super spiritual mind, which is your spiritual mind and soulful mind being connected. Excuse me, sorry. Uh, your spiritual mind and your soulful mind being connected and perceived as your whole divine self, aka your spirit and light body, or celestial body. All right, and the last part, which I just got finished talking about, is this: your occult, the occult mind, and the occult mind, which it says right here on the screen. It says your occult mind is nothing more than your lower, your dark and higher, your light hidden understanding, or your light mind being made aware of, putting your numerological controlled concentrated thoughts and images into power via your occult mind is your controlled and concentrated imagination in power, being put into power. All right. Next slide. Remember this: when you have been told so many lies on top of each other over the centuries, that telling the truth about one of your early foundational lies will unravel all the lies that have been defensively piled on top of it, thus exposing you for what you truly are. You have no choice but to continue to lie. That basically means that if you've been told as a child that Jesus is real, but you become a Christian only to perpetuate which means do something ongoing, only to perpetuate the message that he is real, when in reality Jesus don't take nobody home. He people just die believing Jesus is real. You know what I'm saying? So like the more you continue to do that, knowing that that's not the real light, that's the false light. You're gonna continue to lie to people. Who wants that? You know what I'm saying? Next part. When your ability to maintain your control over another's reality is based on the lies about what you are and who they are, you can never tell the truth. Dr. Ray Higgins. Shout out to Dr. Ray Higgins for that statement, because it is very true. You got a lot of people that are lost out here, y'all. All right. So the next part of this is, when my faith does not line up with the facts, I need to get rid of the faith. Dr. Ray Higgins. In other words, if your religious and or spiritual beliefs does not have a scholastic, historic, cultural, and archaeological foundation to where it's solid. If the things you believe in don't have a solid and tangible factual foundation, you need to get rid of that belief system. Okay, just like I did when I was a Christian. I was a hardcore Christian. I used to tell people Jesus is the only way. Now I'm telling people he ain't real, and he ain't coming back, and who Jesus really is. Yeah, who Jesus really is nothing but the revolutionary black man who according to the Bible eventually became enslaved. Okay, and I got the scriptures to prove that, but that's for another lecture. We don't got time to discuss all that. All right, there we go. So today's lecture is let me find my paper. Okay, I remember now. Today's lecture is who brought the slaves to America, by Walter White Jr. Pre- presented in 1968, 4/12/68. All right. Okay. And also this article, I found this on satanisgod.org. So yeah, this is where I'm presenting the information to you from, and on the top of here, this article was written by Rents.com. This was written from Rents.com. Excuse me. So, who brought the slaves to America? The story of the slaves in America begins with Christopher Columbus. His voyage to America was financed by Queen Isabella, but by Louis de Santangelo, who advanced the sum of 17,000 ducats, about 5,000 pounds, today equal 50,000 pounds, to finance the voyage, which began on August 3rd, 1492. Okay? Columbus was accompanied by 5 Maranos, and underneath it tells you who the Maranos are. All right, Jews who had forsworn their religion, supposedly became Catholics. Louis de Torres, interpreter Marco the surgeon, Bino the physician, Alonso de la Calle, and Gabriel Sanchez. Gabriel Sanchez, abetted by the other Jews, sold Columbus on the idea of capturing 500 Indians and selling them as slaves in Seville, Spain, which was done. Columbus did not receive any of the money from the sale of from the sale of the slaves, but he became the victim of a conspiracy fostered by Binal, the ship's doctor. He, Columbus, suffered injustice and imprisonment at his reward. Oh, okay. I'm 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 go- I'm go- I'm gonna I'm gonna play I'm gonna play this through. Matter of fact, let me take y'all somewhere else. I got a surprise for y'all. Let me see. Hold up. Go into Speechify. I think I have it in here. No, that's not it. Yep. No, it's not in here. All right. I'm a just. Yeah, we gonna do it like that. We gonna do it like that. All right. Now remember, my job is not to in, indoctrinate anybody or anything. I'm I'm just I'm just here to to present my information to you, and 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 leave it up to you to decide whether or not the information being presented and read to you is considered the truth. All right. You can also uh you can also find this article on you can also find this document online. All right. Okay. Just type in who brought the slaves to America, and it should come up. All right. I'm pretty sure that'll happen. Okay.
Sanchez 1. Gabriel Sanchez, abetted by the other 4 Jews, sold Columbus on the idea of capturing 500 Indians and selling them as slaves in Seville, Spain, which was done. Columbus did not receive any of the money from the sale of the slaves, but he became the victim of a conspiracy fostered by Bemel, the ship's doctor. He, Columbus, suffered injustice and imprisonment as his reward, betrayed by the 5 Marinus Jews, whom he had trusted and helped. This, ironically, was the beginning of slavery in the Americas too. The Jews were expelled from Spain. Sanchez 1. Gabriel Sanchez, abetted by the other 4 Jews, sold Columbus on the idea of capturing 500 Indians and selling them as slaves in Seville, Spain, which was done. Columbus did not receive any of the money from the sale of the slaves, but he became the victim of a conspiracy fostered by Bemel, the ship's doctor. He, Columbus, suffered injustice and imprisonment as his reward, betrayed by the 5 Maronist Jews, whom he had trusted and helped. This, ironically, was the beginning of slavery in the Americas too. The Jews were expelled from Spain on August 2, 1492, and from Portugal in 1497. Many of these Jews immigrated to Holland, where they set up the Dutch West Indies Company to exploit the New World. In 1654, the first Jew, Jacob Barsamson, emigrated from Holland to Ne. Amsterdam, New York, and in the next decade many more followed him, settling along the East Coast, principally in New Amsterdam and Newport, Rhode Island. They were prevented by ordinances issued by Governor Peter Stuyvesant from engaging in the domestic economy, so they quickly discovered that the territory inhabited by the Indians would be a fertile field. There were no laws preventing the Jews from trading with the Indians. The first Jew to begin trading with the Indians was Haman Levy, who imported cheap glass beads, textiles, earrings, armbands, and other cheap adornments from Holland, which were traded for valuable for pelts. Haman Levy was soon joined by Jews Nicholas Lowe and Joseph Simon. Lowe conceived the idea of trading rum and whiskey to the Indians, and set up a distillery in Newport, where these 2 liquors were produced. Within a short time there were 22 distilleries in Newport, all of them owned by Jews, manufacturing and distributing firewater. The story of the debauching of the Indians with its resultant massacres of the early settlers is a dramatic story in itself. It is essential to comprehend the seaport of Newport. It is important in order to recognize the Jewish share in the slave commerce. There was a period when it was commonly referred to as the Jewish Newport, world center of slave commerce, altogether. At this time, there were in North America 6 Jewish communities: Newport, Charleston, New York, Philadelphia, Richmond, and Savannah. There were also many other Jews, scattered over the entire East Coast. Although New York held first place in the settlers of Jews in North America, Newport held second place. New York was also the main source of kosher meat, supplying the North American settlements, then the West Indies, and also South America. Now Newport took over. Newport also became the great trade harbor of the east coast of North America. There, vessels from other ports met to exchange commodities. Newport, as previously mentioned, represented the foremost place in the commerce of rum, whiskey, and liquor dealings. And to conclude, it finally became the main center of slave dealings. It was from this port that the ships left on their way across the ocean to gather their black human cargo, and then derive great sums of money in exchange for them. An authentic, contemporary report, based on authority, indicates that of 128 slave ships, for instance, unloaded in Charleston, within 1 year, their cargo, 120 of these, were undersigned by Jews from Newport and Charleston. By their own name, about the rest of them, one can surmise. Their real owners were similarly the Jewish slave dealers from Newport and Charleston. One is able to assess the Jewish share in the entire dealings of the Newport, if one considers the undertaking. Although they were entered as Boston, 1, Norfolk 2, and Baltimore, 4, their real owners were similarly the Jewish slave dealers from Newport and Charleston. One is able to assess the Jewish share in the entire dealings of the Newport, if one considers the undertaking of a lone Jew, the Portuguese, Aaron Lopez, who plays an important part in the overall story of the Jews and slavery. Aaron Lopez concerning the entire commerce of the colonies, and the later state of Rhode Island, which included Newport, bills of lading, concessions, receipts, and port clearances carried the signature name of the Jew Aaron Lopez III. This all took place during the years 1726 to 1774. He had therefore more than 50% of all dealings under his personal control for almost 50 years. Aside from that, there were other ships which he owned, but sailed under other names. In the year 1749, the first Masonic Lodge was established. 90% of the members of this first lodge, 14 all told, were Jews, and one knows that only so-called prominent individuals were accepted. 20 years later, the second Masonic Lodge, King David, was established. It is a fact that all of these members were Jews. In the meantime, the Jewish influence in Newport had reached such proportions that President George Washington decided to pay them a visit. Upon his appearance, both of the Masonic lodges sent an emissary, a Jew named Moses Seixas, 4, to approach the president with a petition, in which the Jews of Newport stated, "If you will permit the children of Abraham to approach you with a request, to tell you that we honor you, and feel an alliance, and then, until the present time the valuable rights of a free citizen have been withheld." However, now we see a new government. Coming into being based on the majesty of the people, a government, not sanctioning any bigotry nor persecution of the Jew, rather, to concede the freedom of thought, which each shares, whatever nation or language. As a part of the great government machine, it is necessary, at this point, to consider the disclosures as to who in reality obtained this legendary freedom in America at the founding of the Union. To be sure, the province became independent and severed from the English jurisdiction. However, we can see from the petition, 5, which Moses Seixas offered President Washington in the name of the Jews of Newport, that it was not in reality this type of freedom which they had in mind. They were merely concerned about themselves and their own civil rights, which had been withheld. Therefore, following the Revolutionary War, the Jews were accorded equal rights and freed of all restrictions, and the Negroes, the Revolutionary War notwithstanding, they remained slaves. In the year 1750, 1/6 of the population in New York was Negroid, and proportionately in the southern parts of the country, they outnumbered the others, but the proclamation of freedom did not touch them. More of this later. Let us scrutinize at close range this dismal handwork of the Jews, which gave them influence and power, so we may comprehend the slave trade, for there has been so much written since that time by the zealous Jewish writers, that at the present, long since removed, it might appear natural, for the time element has a tendency to make things nebulous. Let us follow the journey of one ship, owned by a slave dealer, Aaron Lopez, which had made many trips to the African coast. For instance, in the month of May, 1752, the ship Abigail was equipped with about 9,000 gallons of rum, a great supply of iron foot and hand restraints, pistols, powder, sabers, and a lot of worthless tin ornaments, and under the command of the Jewish Captain Friedman, sailed off for Africa. There were but 2 mates and 6 sailors comprising the crew. 3½ months later they landed on the African coast. Meantime, there had been constructed an African agency, by the Jewish slave dealers, who had corralled them and prepared them for sale. This organization, reaching deep into Africa, had many ramifications, including the heads of groups, villages, etc. This method to win over these leaders for the Jewish slave trade was similar to that which the Jews had employed with the Indians. At first, they presented them with rum, and soon found themselves in an alcoholic delirium. When the gold dust and ivory supply was exhausted,
All right, I'm back. Okay, so I'm a I'm go- I'm gonna finish where where my where my where my where my female computer left off. All right, it says they were induced to sell their descendants at first their wives and then their youths. They began warfare among each other, plotted and developed mostly by the Jews. And if they captured prisoners, these two were exchanged for rum, ammunition, and weapons to the Jews, using them for further campaigns to capture more Negroes. The captured blacks were linked two by two and driven through the medieval forest to the coast. These painful treks required weeks, and some of them frequently became ill and failed by exhaustion, and many unable to rise even through the bullwhip wild beasts. It was not unusual. It was not unusual to see the bones of the dead laying in the tropical sun. And a sad and gruesome reminder to those who would later on tread this path. It has been calculated that for each Negro who withstood the rigors of the of this wandering, there still had to be long voyage across the ocean, excuse me, before they reached American soil. 9 out of 10 died. And when one considers that there was a yearly exodus of 1 million black slaves, then and only then can one assess the tremendous and extensive exodus of African people. At present, Africa is thinly populated, not alone due to the 1,000 literally dragged out of out of huts. Literally, uh-oh. Okay, I found it. Found my spot. Literally dragged out of huts. But due to the 5 to 9 million who never reached their destination, once they reached the coast, the black slaves who were driven together and restraints were applied to hold them until the next transport ship docked. Okay, the agents, many of them Jews, who represented the chief, then began the deal with the captain. Each Negro was represented by the chief. Oh, I'm sorry. Each Negro was personally presented to him, but the captains had learned to become suspicious. The black one must move his fingers, arms, legs, and entire body to ensure that there were not any fractures. Even the teeth were examined. If a tooth was lacking, it lowered the price. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, give me 1 minute, y'all. Hold on. I don't want to stop the tape, cause then this will be a entirely long ass lecture, and I'm not trying to do all that. All right. Oh, wrong side. Here we go. There we go. Now I don't have to worry about the light always dimming. Hold on, y'all. We getting back to it. Okay, here we go. All right. Now let me find where I just left off. Okay. Okay. Read that part already. Oh, okay. Okay, I remember now. I'm gonna start where it says the black one must move. Okay, the black one must move his fingers, arms and legs, and the entire body to ensure that there were not any fractures. Even the teeth were examined. If a tooth was lacking, there we go. Okay, now if a tooth was lacking, There we go. If a tooth was lacking, it lowered the price. Most of the Jew agents knew how to treat sick Negroes with chemicals in order to sell them as sound, meaning people who could hear and comprehend stuff. All right. Each each Negro was valued at about 100 gallons of rum, 100 pounds of gunpowder, or in cash between $18 to $20. The rotations of a captain the rotations of a captain inform us that on September 5th, 1763, one Negro bought as much as 200 gallons of rum due to the bidding among the agents raising the price. Oh, raising the price, okay. Women under 25 years, pregnant or not, resulted in the same measure if they were well and calmly. Any women under 25, excuse me, my apologies, community. Any woman over 25 years lost 25%. Wow. Ain't that something, y'all? And and it goes on to say, and here it should be stated that those Negroes purchased free at the African coast for $20 to $40 were then resold by the same slave dealers in America for $2,000. All right, we gonna let my phone uh read the next few pages. Let's see how many pages we at. We at 6. We got about several more to go. Okay. Now I wanna admit to y'all this was kind of a I want to admit to y'all something. This was kind of a last minute thing, so I apologize for sounding unprepared. I just wanted to do the microwave thing. Give this to y'all instant because um I'm I might be going through some things personally, but I will come back with that fire, and I'm not gonna let my phone read everything. We gonna spend at least an hour, or you gonna at least spend an hour or 2 hours with me watching this lecture, okay? Regardless of my stuttering and all that, all right. But I'm gonna go ahead and yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and let my artificial computer um read to y'all the next few pages. Okay, okay. We read that page. We at page 6. All right. So here we go. All right. I'm about to turn my mic off again.
This gives one an idea how the Jews managed to acquire tremendous fortunes. Following the bargaining, Captain Friedman paid the bill, either in merchandise or cash. He also recalled some advice which his Jewish employers gave him as he left Newport for Africa. Pour as much water into the rum as you possibly can. In this manner the Negro chiefs were cheated 2 times by the Newport Jews. The next step was to shave the hair from the head of the acquired slaves. Then they were bound and branded with a hot iron, either on the back or the hip, identifying them with their owners. Now the Negro slave was indeed the property of the Jewish purchaser. If he fled, he could be identified. Following this procedure, there was a farewell celebration. There were instances when entire families were brought out of the interior to the coast, and then separated through the Bayou, the father going with one ship, the sons and daughters into another. These farewell celebrations were usually packed with emotion, tears, drama, and sadness. There was little joy, if ever. The following day the transport began from land to ship. It was managed by taking 4 to 6 Negroes at one time in rowboats to the ship. Of course the slave dealers were aware of how the Negro loved his homeland above all else, and could only be induced by great force to leave it. So, some of the Negroes would leap into the water. But here the overseers were prepared with sharp dogs, and retrieved the fleeing men. Other Negroes preferred drowning. What came aboard alive was immediately undressed. Here was another opportunity to jump overboard and reach land and freedom. But the slave dealers were pitiless and ruthless. They were merely concerned to get their black cargo to America with the least loss. Therefore an escapee, recaptured, had both of his legs cut off before the eyes of the remaining Negroes in order to restore order. On board the ship the Negroes were separated into 3 groups. The men were placed in one part of the ship, the women into another, whereby the lusty captain arranged it so that the youngest, mostly comely Negro women, were accessible to him. The children remained on deck, covered with a cloth in bad weather. In this fashion the slave ship proceeded on its journey to America. In the main, the ships were too small, and not at all suitable to transport people. They were barely equipped to transport animals, which the Negroes were likened to. In one space, 1 meter high, 39 inches, these unfortunate creatures were placed into a horizontal position, pressed close together. Mostly they were chained together. In this position they had to remain for 3 months until
Hey, hey, occult world of Brother Devin community. This Brother Devin. I just wanted to say, I'm gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna come in at page 15, and we'll end it at that, family. All right. Excuse me. We'll end it at that, community. All right. But I consider y'all family too, cause we all working together in my community. All right. But yeah, I'm gonna let my phone read the thing. I'm gonna let my phone read the pages, and then once we get to page 15, I'll read the rest of the pages myself. All right. Here we go.
the end of the voyage. Rarely was there a captain who sympathized with them or evidenced any feelings, whatever, for these pitiable creatures. Occasionally they would be taken in groups to the deck for fresh air, shackled in irons. Somehow, these Negroes were expendable and endured much. On occasion, one of them became insane, killing the other one pressed closely to him. They also had their fingernails closely cut so they could not tear at each other's flesh. The most horrible battles came about among the men, to acquire a centimeter or two for a comfortable position. It was then that the slave overseer stepped in with his bullwhip. The unimaginable, horrible, human excrement in which these slaves had to endure these trips is impossible to describe. In the women's quarters the same conditions prevailed. Women gave birth to children lying pressed closely together. The younger Negro women were constantly raped by the captain and the crew, resulting, thereby, a new type of mulatto as they came to America. In Virginia, or in any of the other southern port cities, the slaves were transferred to the land and immediately sold. A regular auction would take place, following the method of purchase in Africa. The highest bidder. The end of the voyage. Rarely was there a captain who sympathized with them or evidenced any feelings, whatever, for these pitiable creatures. Occasionally they would be taken in groups to the deck for fresh air, shackled in irons. Somehow, these Negroes were expendable and endured much. On occasion, one of them became insane, killing the other one pressed closely to him. They also had their fingernails closely cut so they could not tear at each other's flesh. The most horrible battles came about among the men, to acquire a centimeter or two for a comfortable position. It was then that the slave overseer stepped in with his bullwhip. The unimaginable, horrible, human excrement in which these slaves had to endure these trips is impossible to describe. In the women's quarters the same conditions prevailed. Women gave birth to children lying pressed closely together. The younger Negro women were constantly raped by the captain and the crew, resulting, thereby, a new type of mulatto as they came to America. In Virginia, or in any of the other southern port cities, the slaves were transferred to the land and immediately sold. A regular auction would take place, following the method of purchase in Africa. The highest bidder obtained the ware. In many cases, due to the indescribable filth, some of the blacks became ill during the sea voyage from Africa to America. They became unemployable. In such cases the captain accepted any price. It was rare to dispose of them, for no one wanted to purchase a sick Negro. Therefore, it is not surprising that the Jewish, unethical doctor senses a new form of revenue. They purchased the sick Negro for a small sum, then treated him, and sold him for a large sum. On occasion, the captain would be left with a few Negroes for whom he did not find a buyer. In that case he returned to Newport and sold them to the Jews for cheap domestic help. In other cases, the Jew owner of the ships took them over. This is why the city of Newport and its surroundings had 4,697 black slaves in the year 1756. Slavery did not extend to the North. Moreover, in many of the North American colonies, slavery was strictly forbidden. Georgia came under discussion, likewise also Philadelphia. And again it was the Jews who managed a loophole, which had given them freedom following the Revolutionary War. So, they schemed to make slave trading legal. One had but to read the names of those persons living in Philadelphia, who were requesting the elimination of existing laws regarding the slavery dealing. They were the Jews Sandiford, Lay, Woolman, Solomon, and Benezet. That explained it all, but let us turn back to the slave ship. Abigail, its captain, and we are reading from his ship's books at a profitable business. He sold all of his Negroes in Virginia, invested some of the money in tobacco, rice, sugar, and cotton, and went on to Newport, where he deposited his wares. We learn from Captain Friedman's books that the Abigail was a small ship and could only accommodate 56 people. He managed, however, to clear from one trip $6,621, which he in turn delivered to the owner of the ship, one Aaron Lopez. The staggering amounts of money acquired by the Jew ship owners and slavery dealers is better illustrated when we emphasize the many years in which this sale and purchase of human flesh was practiced. Prior to 1661, all of the colonies had laws prohibiting slavery. It was in that year that the Jews had become powerful enough to bring about the repeal of these laws, and slavery began in earnest. The Jews had discovered that the colonists needed additional manpower to help them clear their fields for planting, helping in the construction of dwellings, and in general to help with harvesting their crops. This was particularly true of the southern states which we have referred to earlier. The Southerners had vast tracts of rich soil suitable for rice, cotton, tobacco, and cane sugar. At first, impoverished Europeans were recruited. English prison doors were opened, and finally prisoners at war from England and Holland were brought to the colonies, made to work until they had paid the cost of transporting them by ship, and then set free. It doesn't take a Jew long to discover what his brothers are doing, so a group of Jews settled in Charleston, South Carolina, where they set up distilleries for making rum and whiskey. They, too, learned that they could trade with the natives on the west coast of Africa for ivory, and several ships were purchased and sent to Africa, trading the usual glass beads and other cheap ornaments for ivory, which, however, took up but little space on board ship. It occurred to these traders that they could supply the plantations in the South with black ivory, needed under swampy and malarial conditions, which European labor could not tolerate without sickness, and which would not only fill the holds of their ships, but bring enormous profits. This same group had earlier tried selling Indians as slaves, but they found them completely unsatisfactory, as the Indians would not tolerate this type of work. Thus, another segment of the slave trading had become active and profitable out of Charleston, South Carolina. Several shiploads of black slaves were sent by the Dutch West Indies Company to Manhattan. During this time there were a number of plantation owners established in the West Indies, and two Jews, Irger and Sayuer, with strong Rothschild connections in Spain, formed an agency called Jacinto, which later operated in Holland and England. It was through these connections that Jews in Holland and England exerted influence, and both of these connections cooperated in helping the Jews provide black. During this time there were a number of plantation owners established in the West Indies, and two Jews, Irger and Sayuer, with strong Rothschild connections in Spain, formed an agency called Jacinto, which later operated in Holland and England. It was through these connections that Jews in Holland and England exerted influence, and both of these connections cooperated in helping the Jews provide black slaves for the colonists. With the yearly capture and transport of 1 million black slaves, it is not difficult to figure that from 1661 to 1774, 113 years, approximately 110 million slaves had been removed from their native land. About 10%, or 11 million, black slaves reached the colonies alive. We have talked about the small ship Abigail, which could accommodate only 56 people, and yet the profits per trip were enormous, with little or no investment. There were many other ships, but we will concentrate here on only a few, such as the La Fortuna, Hannah, Sally, or the Venue, which made very great profits. The La Fortuna, by the way, transported approximately 217 slaves on each trip. The owner cleared not less than $41,438 from such a trip. These were dollars which the slave dealers could keep, and these were dollars of value which would buy a great deal in return. When one considers that the Jews of Newport owned about 300 slave transporting ships, active without interruption, docking at Newport, Africa, Charleston, or Virginia, one can approximate the tremendous earnings which made their way to Jewish ship owners. Indeed, the Jews admit that of the 600 ships leaving Newport Harbor into all the world, at least half of them went their way to Africa. And we know what these ships going to Africa were seeking. The fact that Aaron Lopez had control of over more than half of the combined deals in the colonies of Rhode Island with Newport is well known. The well-known Rabbi Morris Augustine, in his book, The Story of the Jews in Newport, attempts to remove these facts, maintaining that there is not any evidence that the Jews were connected with the slave trade. It is therefore imperative to prove that the Jew was indeed connected with the slave trading, especially so since this rabbi insists they had made great contributions, and how very blessed their residence became for the city of Newport. Surely Morris Augustine will grant us permission to present the facts which he was unable to find. Turning to one report of the Chamber of Commerce of the Rhode Island Colony in the year 1764, we find, for instance, that in the year 1723 a few merchants in Newport devised the idea to send their Newport rum to the coast of Africa. It developed into such a great export that in the matter of a few years several thousand hogsheads of rum went that way. To which purpose did this rum serve? The Carnegie Institute in Washington, D.C., presents and makes public authentic documents entitled Documents Illustrative of the History of the Slave Trade in America. We wish to present a few facts from this particular collection of original documents, and scrutinize them at closer range, and not at all to prove the heretofore Rabbi Morris Augustine in error. In this collection of the First American Institute of Learning, we evaluate the capital Rhode Island, which contributed the main share of the public documentation regarding the slave trading. Here we find documented the recipients of the numerous shipping letters, also letters to the slave dealers, and correspondence to the ship's captains, who were about 15% Jews, living in Newport. Among these we find, for instance, the Jew Isaac Eliezer. He wrote a letter to Captain Christopher Champlin on February 6, 1763, saying he would like to be an colony in the year 1764, we find, for instance, that in the year 1723 a few merchants in Newport devised the idea to send their Newport rum to the coast of Africa. It developed into such a great export that in the matter of a few years several thousand hogsheads of rum went that way. To which purpose did this rum serve? The Carnegie Institute in Washington, D.C., presents and makes public authentic documents entitled Documents Illustrative of the History of the Slave Trade in America. We wish to present a few facts from this particular collection of original documents, and scrutinize them at closer range, and not at all to prove the heretofore Rabbi Morris Augustine in error. In this collection of the First American Institute of Learning, we evaluate the capital Rhode Island, which contributed the main share of the public documentation regarding the slave trading. Here we find documented the recipients of the numerous shipping letters, also letters to the slave dealers, and correspondence to the ship's captains, who were about 15% Jews, living in Newport. Among these we find, for instance, the Jew Isaac Eliezer. He wrote a letter to Captain Christopher Champlin on February 6, 1763, saying he would like to be an agent for a load of slaves. Then follows the Jew Abraham Pereira Mendez, and one of the main slave dealers, Jacob Rod Rivera, the father-in-law of Aaron Lopez. And then there's Aaron Lopez, himself, and many, many more other Jews. Although we have considered Aaron Lopez several times, the size of this documented treatise limits us, and we cannot describe all of the writers concerned in the slavery dealing correspondence, their names, and the special dates rather. We wish to study the documentation of the Carnegie Institute itself, keeping Aaron Lopez in mind. We wish to see what in the main this Jew was pursuing and what his business was. This is due to the fact that Rabbi Morris Augustine presents him as a lofty and fine civilian of Newport, who was so generous, and even made contributions to welfare, and a great number of published original unprejudiced writings in the Carnegie Institute. We find that Aaron Lopez pursued a tremendous commerce in rum with the African coast in exchange for slaves. These irrefutable facts are as follows. June 22, 1764. A letter by Captain William Stead to Aaron Lopez. July 22, 1765. A letter by Aaron Lopez to Captain Nathaniel Briggs. July 22, 1765. A letter to Captain Abraham All. February 4, 1766. A letter to Captain William Stead by Aaron Lopez. March 7, 1766. A letter by Captain William Stead to Aaron Lopez. February 20th, 1766. A letter by Aaron Lopez to Captain William Stead. October 8th, 1766. A letter by Captain William Stead to Aaron Lopez. February 9th, 1767. A letter by Captain William Stead to Aaron Lopez. Aside from that, there are similar statements out of letters by Aaron Lopez in the original, which he directed to the captains Henry Kruger, David Mill, Henry White, Thomas Dolbear, and William Moore. Indeed, one letter by Captain William Moore to Aaron Lopez and Company is particularly revealing and of special mention at this point. We wish to remark on the main contents of this letter, in which Captain Moore writes, I wish to advise you that your ship and docked here night before last with 112 slaves, consisting of 35 men, 16 large youths, 21 small boys, 29 women, 2 grown girls, 9 small girls, and I assure you this is such a one-rum cargo, rum in exchange for slaves, which I have not yet encountered. Among the entire group there may be 5 to which one could take exception. The date of the above letter was November 27, 1773. We have not yet concluded, because of lack of space, the excerpts and grateful compilations made available by the Carnegie Institute. On November 29, 1767, the Jew Abraham Pereira Mendez, who had been cheated by one of his kind from Charleston, where he had journeyed to better control his black cargo, wrote Aaron Lopez, at Newport, these Negroes, which Captain Abraham all delivered to me, were in such poor condition due to the poor transportation, that I was forced to sell 8 boys and girls for a mere 27 pounds, 2 other for 45 pounds, and 2 women each for 35 pounds. No doubt, English money, Abraham Pereira Mendez, was very angry, and accused Aaron Lopez of cheating him. This letter delineates to us that this generous and fine citizen of Newport was insatiable in his greed for money. This is what caused the Rabbi Morris Gutstein to present this nobleman, Aaron Lopez, to pursue his objectionable methods. Negroes presented to him but a commodity. In all of the letters which the Carnegie Institute published, it stresses the lack of human sympathy for the poor Negro slaves. This lack of feeling and compassion for the abused and pitiful blacks at the hands of their Jewish dealers can be read out of the diary of a captain who manned a ship owned by Aaron Lopez. The entrees concern a trip from the African coast to Charleston. Moreover, they are authentic documents, published by the Carnegie Institute in Washington, D.C., calling attention to an organization which had heretofore known little or nothing about. Neither had they. Encountered further publicity in books or newspapers. Therefore, it is not to be wondered at that the facts of the leading share of American Jews in the slave trade could be pointed out as a monopoly, and unknown to the non-Jewish Americans, including the great masses of people all over the world. Others, however, acquainted with the facts, had good reason to remain painfully quiet. The captain of another ship, the Othello among other things, makes the following entries in his diary. February 6th, 1 man drowned in the process of loading. March 18th, 2 women went overboard because they had not been locked up. April 6th, 1 man dead with flux, no doubt an illness. April 13th, 1 woman dead with flux. May 7th, 1 man dead with flux. June 16th, 1 man dead by Cap Henry. June 21st, 1 man dead by James Fluss. July 5th, 1 woman dead with fever. July 6th, 1 girl, sick for 2 months, died. This vessel was on its way for 5 months. What terrible and unspeakable suffering was the lot of these millions of blacks, who were torn with brutal force from their friendly African huts, jammed together, like animals below deck, and then sold with less concern than selling a head of cattle. Small wonder that 10 of them died, being purchased for just a few dollars, and then sold for the sum of $2,000. Some Negroes managed, through insurrection, to gain control of one or another ship, and turned it around, with full sails, toward their African home. The crew of one slave ship, 3 friends for instance, tortured their black cargo in such a manner that the Negroes reciprocated in a bloody rebellion. They killed the captain and the entire crew, and threw the dead overboard. They then sailed back to Africa, where they had barely escaped their hard-won freedom. A similar fate struck the slave ship Amistad. Among the slaves was the son of an enemy tribal chief. Once the ship was underway, he schemed with his compatriots to attack the ship's crew. Following a bloody battle, they managed to capture the captain. The Negro prince forced him to turn back to Africa. Then in the evening, under cover of darkness, he changed his course, zigzagged for months until he came close to the American coast and encountered a government ship. This took place in the year 1839 when Slav encountered further publicity in books or newspapers. Therefore, it is not to be wondered at that the facts of the leading share of American Jews in the slave trade could be pointed out as a monopoly, and unknown to the non-Jewish Americans, including the great masses of people all over the world. Others, however, acquainted with the facts, had good reason to remain painfully quiet. The captain of another ship, the Othello among other things, makes the following entries in his diary. February 6th. One man drowned in the process of loading. March 18th. 2 women went overboard because they had not been locked up. April 6th. 1 man dead with flux, no doubt an illness. April 13th. 1 woman dead with flux. May 7th. 1 man dead with flux. June 16th. 1 man dead by Cap Henry. June 21st. 1 man dead by James Fluss. July 5th. 1 woman dead with fever. July 6th. 1 girl, sick for 2 months, died. This vessel was on its way for 5 months. What terrible and unspeakable suffering was the lot of these millions of blacks, who were torn with brutal force from their friendly African huts, jammed together, like animals below deck, and then sold with less concern than selling a head of cattle. Small wonder that 10 of them died, being purchased for just a few dollars, and then sold for the sum of $2,000. Some Negroes managed, through insurrection, to gain control of one or another ship, and turned it around, with full sails, toward their African home. The crew of one slave ship, 3 friends for instance, tortured their black cargo in such a manner that the Negroes reciprocated in a bloody rebellion. They killed the captain and the entire crew, and threw the dead overboard. They then sailed back to Africa, where they had barely escaped their hard-won freedom. A similar fate struck the slave ship Amistad. Among the slaves was the son of an enemy tribal chief. Once the ship was underway, he schemed with his compatriots to attack the ship's crew. Following a bloody battle, they managed to capture the captain. The Negro prince forced him to turn back to Africa. Then in the evening, under cover of darkness, he changed his course, zigzagged for months until he came close to the American coast and encountered a government ship. This took place in the year 1839 when slave trading was already forbidden and illegal. The Negro slaves were freed, and the captain punished. These sea voyages were not without danger when they had black cargo, which accounts for the fact that the Jews most always engaged non-Jewish captains. The slave dealers preferred to remain in their offices, and counted the fat winnings following each journey, such as Aaron Lopez, who left his heirs one of the largest fortunes in the New England era. When reviewing the documented facts contained herein, it is important that one always remembers that it was a lucky captain who did not lose more than 9 out of 19 slaves on the return trip. It is equally important to remember that these poor black creatures had to lie in human excrement for the entire trip. Think of it. No wonder sickness and disease took such a high toll. Remember the figures. Approximately 110 million black people were captured and removed from their homeland in Africa. Only 11 million of these black slaves reached the colonies alive, and the Jews still talk about the Germans, and Hitler, and how 6 million Jews were exterminated during World War II. This is the greatest lie ever perpetrated upon the people of the world, whereas the story of the poor black slaves is documented with truth. The evidence is still available for the people of the world to see. The Carnegie Institute of Technology is located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. As this document is distributed, eventually reaching the hands of the Jew, the evidence will probably be removed and destroyed until finally all documentation is removed, which is damaging to the Jew. The Jews have been engaged in this practice for centuries. Truth, however, truth, which bears fact, cannot remain covered or hidden forever, and more truths are being disclosed by those of us who intend to free America of these sons of the devil, the Jews. The published documentation contained herein was obtained from the Carnegie Institute of Learning, presently known as the Carnegie Institute of Technology. The following is a partial of the slave ships owned by Jews: Abigail by Aaron Lopez, Moses Levy and Jacob Franks, Crown by Isaac Levy and Nathan Simpson, Nassau by Moses Levy, Four Sisters by Moses Levy, Anne and Eliza by Justice Bosch and John Abrams, Prudent Betty by Henry Kruger and Jacob Phoenix, Hester by Mordecai and David Gomez, Elizabeth by David and Mordecai Gomez, Antigua by Nathan Marston and Abram Lyle, Betsy B. W.M. Dulf, Powell B. James Dulf, White Horse by Jan de Sweets, Expedition by John and Jacob Roosevelt, Charlotte by Moses and Sam Levy and Jacob Franks, Caracoa by Moses and Sam Levy. Slave runners, also owned by Jews, were the La Fortuna, the Hannah, the Sally, and the Vineyard. Some of the Jews of Newport and Charleston, who were engaged in the distillery or slavery trade, or both, were Isaac Gomez, Haman Levy, Jacob Malhado, Naphtali Myers, David Hart, Joseph Jacobs, Moses Ben Franks, Moses Gomez, Isaac Diaz, Benjamin Levy, David Jeshuvim, Jacob Pinto, Jacob Turk, Daniel Gomez, James Lucana, Jan de Sweets, Felix Cha-Cha de Souza, known as the Prince of Slavers, and second only to Aaron Lopez, Simeon Potter, Isaac Eliezer, Jacob Rod, Jackal Idadrigues Rivera, Haim Isaac Carregal, Abraham Turo, Moses Hayes, Moses Lopez, Judah Turo, Abratham Mendez, and Abraham All. Of some 600 ships leaving the port of Newport, more than 300 were engaged in the slave trade. A typical cargo of one ship, La Fortuna, was 217 slaves, which cost about $4,300, and sold for $41,438. Only about 10% of the slave ship captains were Jews, not wanting to subject themselves to the rigors of the 6-month journey. They preferred to stay at home and continue their distillery operations, which continued to supply rum and whiskey to the Indians for many years at a very great profit. References documentation.
All right, Brother Devin, occult community. Um, I'm back at y'all wicked asses again. All right, I'm gonna be excuse me. Gonna be reading some references here. It's only right that I finish it. All right. It says Elizabeth Dolman, 4-volume documents illustrated of the history of the slave trade to America, Washington, D.C., 1930 to 1935. Carnegie Institute of Technology, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Adventures of an African Slaver by Malcolm Coley, 1928, published by Albert and Charles Bory of New York. The Story of the Jews in Newport, Rabbi Morris A. Gustine. Morris A. Gustine. The Jew Discovering America by Sithmore Cranes. All right. The International Jew by Henry Ford. The Plot Against the Church by Maurice Pinay. Protocol for World Congress, 1956, by the Central Conference of American Rabbis. Behind Communism, which is another book. Behind Communism by Frank L. Britton. All right. It goes on to say, we cannot undertake even this brief history of modern Jew without taking note of a phenomenon which has confounded Gentile societies for 20 centuries. This is the ability of the Jewish people collectively retain their identity despite centuries of exposure to Christian civilization. To any student of Judaism, excuse me, or to the Jews themselves, this phenomenon is partly explained by the fact that Judaism is neither mainly a religion nor mainly is it a kind of trinity. Judaism is best described as a nationality built on the twin pillars of race and religion. This is closely related to another aspect of Judaism, namely the persecution myth, since first appearing in history. We find the Jews propagating the idea that they are an abused and persecuted people. And this idea always has been central in Jewish thinking. The myth of persecution is adhesive and cement of Judaism. Without it, Jews would have long ceased to exist. Their racial, religious nationality notwithstanding. It is a fact that the Jewish people have suffered numerous hardships in the course of their history, but this is true of other peoples too. The chief difference is that the Jews kept score. We must repeat, they have kept score. They have made a tradition of persecution. All right. So, you know, they're the the writer of this article is uh, um admitting that even though other races contribute to the neutralization of the black race populating, the Jews and the Rothschilds hold some responsibility to that too. Okay, and I just want to let y'all know, if this video gets taken down off YouTube, we gonna put it on Rumble, because my Rumble channel is not synced to to YouTube. Okay, because if you sync it to YouTube, they'll automatically take it down. So I got my stuff way underground. You're not gonna find my content linked to this YouTube. You know what I'm saying? I'm against all white nationalists, white supremacists, and Jewish elite. They take responsibility for stealing our information too. And I'm also getting in my spirit that they play a role in the Central Intelligence agency documents. Okay, that's the message I got from Spirit. So I just wanted to let y'all know that. Continuing on, we got 2 more pages left, and then I'm finished. Because I don't let this screen record run for an hour. All right. But like I said, sometimes it's gonna be like that. Hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe even. Okay. A casual slaughter of thousands of excuse me. Gotta sneeze. Whew. Excuse me, y'all. All right. A casual slaughter of thousands of Christians is remembered by no one in 50 years but a disability visited upon a few Jews preserved forever in the Jewish histories, and they tell their woes not only to themselves but to a sympathetic world as well. End of original essay. Okay, and you know what? Since we at the end, I'm gonna let my artificial computer read these references. All right. Here we go. Check it out.
The following references are added by the editor to facilitate your research. Ref The International Jew by Henry Ford. Adventures of an African Slaver by Malcolm Cowley, 1928. Page 11. Aaron Lopez and his family arrived in Newport around 1750 from New York via Lisbon, Portugal. Lopez arrived in the New World as a member of a Marrano family with the Christian name of Don Duarte Lopez. Lopez immediately dropped his Christian name and took the Hebrew name of Aaron and submitted to ritual circumcision. Within 20 years, Lopez owned or had interests in over 80 sailing vessels. Lopez was also one of the original founders and contributors of Touro Synagogue, and by the end of his life, was recognized as one of the merchant princes of early America. His merchant trading interests included rum, molasses, dry goods, and African slaves. Moses Levy and the Moses Seixas families both lived in one of Newport's large colonial mansions at 29 Touro Street. Seixas was a founding member of the nation's oldest Jewish Masonic lodge, King David in Newport, and Grand Master of the Masonic Order of Rhode Island. Seixas was well known as the cashier of the Bank of Rhode Island, President, Parnas, of Touro Synagogue, at the time of the George Washington visit and letter to the congregation. Seixas also performed the covenant of circumcision, Brit Milah. Prominent merchant and trader Moses Levy of New York and Newport was one of several Ashkenazi Jewish families in Newport at that time. Levy owned the Touro Street mansion and willed the property to Moses Seixas in 1792. Sir, permit the children of the stock of Abraham to approach you with the most cordial affection and esteem for your person and merit, and to join with our fellow citizens in welcoming you to Newport. Deprived as we hitherto have been of the invaluable rights of free citizens, we now with a deep sense of gratitude to the Almighty Disposer of all events, behold a government erected by the majesty of the people, a government which to bigotry gives no sanction, to persecution no assistance, but generously affording to all liberty of conscience and immunities of citizenship, deeming every one of whatever nation, tongue, or language, equal parts of the great governmental machine. This so ample and extensive federal union, whose base is philanthropy, mutual confidence, and public virtue, we cannot but acknowledge to be the work of the great God, who rules in the armies of the heavens, and among the inhabitants of the earth, doing whatever seemeth to him good. For all the blessings of civil and religious liberty, which we enjoy under an equal and benign administration, we desire to send up our thanks to the Ancient of Days, the great preserver of men, beseeching him that the angels, who conducted our forefathers through the wilderness into the promised land, may graciously conduct you through all the difficulties and dangers of this mortal life. And when, like Joshua, full of days and full of honors, you are gathered to your fathers, may you be admitted into the heavenly paradise to partake of the water of life and the tree of immortality. Done and signed by order of the Hebrew congregation in Newport, Rhode Island, August 17, 1790. Moses Seixas, Warden. Disclaimer. Main page http://www.rense.com. This site served by the host pros.
Well, all right, y'all. That's the end of the lecture. I'm sorry I couldn't read the last few pages of it. My hand was starting to hurt. I don't have a iPhone stand. I'm gonna try to see if I can uh get me one over the summer. You know what I mean? And cause and I even want to do my lectures. Um, I even want to do my lectures from my my, uh, my laptop that I have. Um, I, s- I still got the charger and everything. Until then, I gotta use my phone. I gotta use my phone, community. You know what I'm saying? So, uh, I'll 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 hit y'all again with another lecture. You know what I'm saying? I want to thank y'all for tuning in to the occult world of Brother Devin. Now, again, again, I want to make y'all. Again, I would like to. Oops. I'm. Forgive me, community. I'm looking for my logo. uh, Again, I would like to thank y'all for tuning in and watching. No, that's pictures of me. I'm looking for my logo. Uh, nope, nothing in there. All right, well, shoot. Man, man, just thanks for. Okay, here we go. Man, thanks for watching, man. Th- thanks for tuning in to the occult world of Brother Devin on YouTube. Make sure you like this video. Subscribe, comment. Now again, I want to remind you that if this this video um this this video talks about the 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 destruction of the Jewish elite, destroying black people. That because today's history lecture was who brought the slaves to the Americas, and who brought the slaves to the Americas? The the Jewish elite did, and the the Rothschilds help finance the Jewish elite to help enslave blacks. All right, and I um I also shared that the first Masonic lodge was built in 17. I think I'm going to watch the lecture again. So next time when I give reference again, um yeah, next time when I give reference again, um I'll be sure of my dates. Again, this was a last minute thing. I'm I'm going through some stuff, family, personally and emotionally. I I command that everybody in the occult world of Brother Devin community send your love light and your 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 shadow protection energy towards me. You know what I mean? To keep my enemies away from me, especially those religious ones. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, just look out for your brother, man. Again, you tuned into the occult world of Brother Devin and the occult world of Brother Devin community, and I want and I want to say hell black King Lucifer, hell black Satan, hell black Queen Mother Lilith, and I also want to say six side nigga. Oh, and shout out to the shout out to the lower Kemetic Kemites. Um, Asar Aset, uh, uh, Set, Nebhet, okay, Anpu. I love each and every one of those entities slash energies. All right, cause I know the science behind them too. You know what I mean? We are them and they are us. Nothing can separate us from immortality. You know what I mean, all right, and as I say in the paranormal hood, fill your soul with gold to get gold, or get fill your soul with gold to get gold put in your bones, nigga. Translated as know thyself or die. Again, I'm out, y'all. Six side. Peace.